Merry meet, guys. Welcome back to Witches of the Moon, week 2. I'm your Wednesday host, Houston. And yes, we're in my car again. I made a video last night, and after uploading it to my channel, I haven't uploaded it to Witches of the Moon yet. It was basically 30 minutes of me rambling about, just really rambling about this week's topic. And with that being said, this week's topic is finding your deities and connecting with deity. So I want to make this a lot shorter than what I made last night. We'll go back. From when I was young, I've always been interested in the archetype of a wizard. And witch, of course, but the wizard mostly. Merlin has really called out to me, or really stuck out to me. I don't want to say called because he doesn't do that. So when I started practicing, I wanted to find as many books as I can on wizardry and druidry. I know that's not the same thing, but those two aspects kind of melded together. I've always been interested in magic, and when I found my craft, two deities did make themselves known, and they're still around me today. The Green Man and Lady Gaia. My sister introduced them to me, and I do still feel their presence with me today. I don't really work with them as much. Let me clarify. If you haven't watched any of my previous videos on this channel, I think it was the Ancestor one I went into about this, but I am not a big fan of the term worship in paganism. Just something about that rubs me the wrong way. So instead of worshiping, I work with. For me, that just sounds a lot better. I mean, I do give the deities I work with offerings of thanks, energy, and I call them into ritual as much as possible, and I feel that they're okay with that. I only ever gotten a slap basically on the back of the head for something stupid I said. Not really about them, but about something in general. They'll manifest that way. But the deities that I work with now, one is the Greek god Poseidon. I was always I got interested in Greek mythology in high school when I was in book club, and there was a book actually called Greek Mythology. It's a fucking thick book, and that was one of the books I decided to read and talk about, and I read all the way through it. It was amazing stories. I actually have a copy of it at the house, plus a couple other different Greek mythology books by different authors. And the story of Poseidon and his energy when I called him in the circle for the first time was just so fatherly and welcoming and loving that I was like, you know what? I really want to work with him. At the time, I moved away down to college, to Charleston to college, and I didn't really, I still had the Green Man and Gaia, but I felt a disconnect. So I was like, maybe I should start doing some research and finding another deity to work with and bring energies into my practice. And I found that after my research and after testing the waters to so to speak, and it's a funny way to put Poseidon since he's the god of the ocean, that I found that Poseidon really clicked with me. I would not say that I am a sea witch by any means. I don't go out and do all my spell work by the ocean. It's part of my craft. I could be a tiny bit of a sea witch, or a sea wizard, or whatever. I do collect the seashells and beach sand and ocean water. I use them in spell work. So I guess I could be considered a sea witch or a sea wizard. But my thing for him, I don't know if you can see it, and I'm driving, is I have a tattoo on my arm That's his trident. If we get a stoplight up here, I will show you a closer look. Turn red. But I tattooed of him a trident on my arm for dedication to him, so I'd always remember that of Poseidon. So I did mark. And how I really connect with him is I basically go to a beach or go to a large body of water and I talk, or I bring him to spell work, but mostly I talk, and I talk to him about my problems. I talk to him about things that I'm working on, things that I've accomplished, things like that, things that, a father would be really proud of. To me, that's what he feels like. He feels like a very fatherly figure. Now, the next god that I work with in my craft when I'm not at the ocean, because I don't really call Poseidon in when I'm not by the beach, unless it's something for healing or something to cleanse and wash away energy. The next god that I really do work with, and I felt a connection with when I moved down here and was started doing magic outside. And I know that sounds really weird, but living in an apartment complexes for 6 years before I moved into a house, you don't really do a lot of magic outside because you just have that little patio, and mine was on the first floor, so it's not like I could get away with sitting outside at night on the patio with candles lit and incense lit without people looking at me funny. So I was like, I'm gonna avoid that. Give me a second. Take a turn. I'm gonna avoid that, and a lot of people are hitting each other this morning. Well, eyes on the road. So I avoided that for a while, but when I started doing magic outside of the new house, not the new house, I've been there for almost 6 years, but at the house that I'm at now, I felt this really deep, dark presence, but it wasn't dark like it was scary, because I did this stuff at night. I didn't do it during the day. So I felt this really deep, dark, wild magic presence that came into my circle. I invited it in because I didn't feel that it was negative. I felt that it was interested in what I was doing, and it was, well, mostly just interested in what I was doing and seeing what I was doing. And during my ritual, whatever I was doing, I don't remember if it was for a Sabbath, or if it was just a spell that I was doing in general that I wanted to do outside. At the end of it, before I closed circle, I asked the presence, because I still felt it with me, what are you called? What is your name? And I am called the Horn One, and I go by many names. So I took that as being the Horned One, so it could be in a reference to Pan, to Cernunnos, to Hern the Hunter. Those three aspects really stuck out to me. So it's really a mixture of those three that I work with. Mostly Cernunnos. I haven't really worked with Hern the Hunter, and Pan's more of a trickster. So it's not that I don't like trickster gods. I think they are fun to work with, especially if you need something to help you get out of a funk. I think they're always there to cheer you up, but they also kind of leave you challenges. But the energy that I mostly connect with is Cernunnos, and how I connect with him is, again, I go outside and I do ritual and I call him in and I talk to him. I do leave offerings. I do leave offerings of food and incense, and I do make special candles for them, for my deities, but I don't do it often. I do it on special occasions, or if they've helped me with something small or big. I'll give them offerings if I've called them into ritual and they've helped me with something. I know that sounds really bad, but I don't think, well, at least I hope it doesn't sound bad. I feel that we are all gods as witches and pagans and humans. We're all gods, and that all the different gods, the names and faces of different gods, are all facets of Source. I feel that Source to me is like one big diamond, and all the different facets of the diamond are a different deity. And I know I explained that in earlier videos on different seasons, but just to get that out of the way. So when connecting to Kronos, I didn't really, like I said, it wasn't really a profound experience. It was more of a sensing him in a sense of awe and mystery too, because I didn't know who he was, but I felt this raw, wild magic just kind of enter my circle, and I wasn't really used to it. And again, I just talk. I don't, you know, talking to your deity, talking to your spirit guides, talking to your spirit family, your spiritual team is always this. I think it's always essential for a pagan practitioner to do. You don't have to do it. It's just what I like to do. Now, the next deity that I have two more that I work with. I know that sounds like I'm being, being a show off, and I'm really not. This van needs to get off my butt before I slam on the brakes. Sorry. But the next deity that came and made contact with me was the Celtic goddess Caradwen. Give me 2 seconds. The Celtic goddess Caradwen, yeah, sorry, I needed to make sure I wasn't going to get hit. The Celtic goddess Caradwen made herself known to me. I was doing a meditation out of A Year in the Day by Timothy Roderick. I think that's right. I haven't finished the book. I lost interest, to be truthfully honest. But I was doing the crone meditation out of the Year in a Day book. And the meditation basically said, go into a meditative state and call in the crone energy and go with the flow. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So I called in the crone energy, no one specific. It did list names that I could call in, like Hecate, Caradwen, the Morrigan, things like that. To call in different deities' names to basically get their energy. And that pisses me off. But whatever. So I basically called her in, and I found myself in a field, and the field led to, I felt pulled to a little cottage in the woods. And inside, on the porch of the cottage was the goddess herself. She didn't tell me who she was, but she welcomed me in. She said, come on in. And inside the house was so warm and comforting. And I remember seeing a huge cauldron over a fire in the middle where the smokestack went up. And she was cooking something. There were dried herbs hanging from the rafters in the house and on the windows. She was cutting up something to add to the cauldron. And she asked if I wanted to sit down and have a talk. And at that time, my mind took me out of it. Something jolted me out of the meditation. I don't know if it was my phone or if I had something made a noise near me or something. I was just jolted out. So I did some research into looking to see what Quorum goddesses were symbolized with cauldrons, and she was one of the first ones to come up. And I've connected with her in circle, and she did say that she was the one that connected with me in my meditation. And how I really connect with her is through divination. I use tarot cards, I use crystal scrying, and I talk to her like I talk to all my deities and spirit family, just out loud. But feeling her energy, she really feels really present when I'm doing a tarot reading for someone else, or if I need insight myself and I'm not really understanding it, I call on her, and she helps me understand what I need to understand. Now, the final deity, he's not really, I don't know if you consider him a deity, but he's from the Arthurian legends. He's Merlin. I do work with Merlin in his wizard aspect, not really his madman seer, but his wizard druid aspect. I like to, his energy is fantastic. How I came about him is I was always interested in him. I've got a book by Doreen Virtue called Ascended Archangels and Ascended Masters or something like that, and it had him in it, so I did the invocation to call him in, and it did say in the book that if you weren't ready, he was going to tell you you're not ready, and he told me I wasn't ready at the time. I was like, okay, I can accept that. So I can accept that. So I kept working, I kept studying, I kept practicing, and I think last year I called out to him again, and I called him into circle. I called him into my Reiki sessions, because it did say from my research and from her book that he's a energetic master to a degree. He knows how to work with energy. He knows how to manipulate things. And so I called him into my Reiki sessions, and I also called him into a couple of tarot sessions that I did with myself with Caradwin. And then when I called him in a circle and asked him if he would work with me and if he would teach me, I asked, was I ready? And he said, yeah, you're ready to a degree. There's still a lot more stuff you need to learn to lead to experience. And I was like, okay, well, I'm open for it, and please teach me. And he said, I will. So that was my experience with him. And I know that sounds really weird. It wasn't really profound. It was more, ritualistic. I went out and I seeked some of these deities. With Poseidon, he didn't call out to me. Well, I mean, he called out to me with wanting to know more about him, but I called out to him asking if he would be, my deity. Then Cernunnos came into my circle and was, made his presence known. So, and then Caradwin made her presence known through a meditation, and Merlin, I reached out and I called out to him and asking him if he would work with me. There are some deities that I asked to work with and they refuse. If you ever come across that, then you say, well, okay, thank you for your time. Thank them for their time and then move on. Maybe you're not at the right space in your life to work with them, and maybe later on you can ask them again and they'll be more than happy to work with you, or they just might not want to work with you in general. Maybe your energies and their energies just don't mix, and that's okay. There are many different deities out there to work with, and I know there are a lot of people that says you shouldn't work with a deity from a closed religion or a closed culture, and I think to myself that if a deity calls out to me or to someone else, who's going to tell them they're wrong? It's not going to be me, because it's their personal experience. So my advice to start working with a deity is do as much research as possible. Do books online, personal experience with calling them into circle, calling them into your meditation, that type of research. So if you guys have any, I'm going to end this right here because I have to get to work. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below in the comment section. And until next week, many blessings.